Have fun. Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can start.
Yes. We are live. Yes, we are live.
Okay,
Cool.
nice. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Sketchfab live stream. My name is Thomas Flynn. I'm a community manager at Sketchfab, and this month we have some special guests from the Twinmotion team, which I'll introduce in just a moment. But first, a few notices from the Sketchfab community team. I'd like to remind everyone that it's the last week to enter the Adventure Kit Challenge. We have big prizes, including Wacom tablets, as well as gifts from ArtStation, Reality Capture, and the Unreal Engine Marketplace. We'll put details of that in the description. And you're, of course, welcome to also join our weekly Sketchfab Weekly challenge to help kind of generate some creativity. Each week we'll publish a prompt on social media, and you're encouraged to try and create a 3D model based on that prompt. You could also follow us on social media for all the latest staff picks and weekly top 10 3D models, as well as the latest posts from the Sketchfab blog. Now, without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing our two guests this month. So Jiang Xiao has been Twinmotion community manager since 2015. She is in charge of Twinmotion's social presence and has built and maintained an active and vibrant online community. Jiang Xiao loves engaging with users and highlighting their success stories, and she also organizes competitions to challenge the Twinmotion creators as well. And for anyone that doesn't know what Twinmotion is, Jiang Xiao is going to give an introduction and tell you all about that in just a moment. And also on the stream is Martin Kreisman, who joined Twinmotion in 2013, specializing in real-time technology and rendering. Martin started as a technical artist working on the Twinmotion library, and now is a Twinmotion technical marketing manager, creating a bridge between clients and the development team through webinars and live presentations, just like this one. So welcome, Jiang Xiao and Martin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
Really pleased to be here today.
Awesome. I'll pass over then to Jiang Xiao to give an introduction to Twinmotion, and I'll sit back and relax and learn from you both.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Well, hi everyone. My name is Jiang Xiao. I'm Twinmotion community manager, and I'm really glad to be here today. So before we dive into the live demo, I like to do a short presentation of what is Twinmotion, our relationship with Sketchfab, and other members of the AP Games family. So start with Twinmotion. Twinmotion is a real-time visualization tool developed in Unreal Engine. It has a simplified UI and short learning curve. So let's say around 2 hours for a total beginner to play around with the software and export something from their 3D projects. It allows almost everyone, both 3D experts and hobbyists, to quickly visualize their 3D projects in real time, iterate ideas, build a story, and then create high-quality images, videos, panoramas, presentations, or VR presentations, either locally or on the cloud. Twinmotion is originally developed for architects, so majority of our community members today are architects and archivist specialists. But in the last years, we start to see Twinmotion being used by professionals in other areas, for example, for automotive visualization, product visualization, for scenic design, film, short films, etc. So it really starts to become a real-time tool for all creative people in the 3D world. We joined the AP Games family in 2019. Since then, the team did great jobs to become a part of the AP Games ecosystem. So here's a slide that shows pretty well our relationship with other tools in the AP Games ecosystem. Start from Twinmotion to Unreal Engine. So last year, the team made available the first beta of Twinmotion Importer to Unreal Engine. That means Twinmotion is no longer a closed box. Creators can start their projects in Twinmotion for design review, fast renderings, storytelling, and if they want to bring their projects even further, they can push the data to Unreal Engine for more customized experiences and more features. The same year, we bring Quixel Megascans assets into Twinmotion. That means it allows people to have access to thousands of Quixel Megascans, materials, 3D objects, plans directly in Twinmotion, and with a simple drag and drop to add to their Twinmotion scene. And we did the same thing with Sketchfab just last week in our latest release. Now people have access to over 600,000 creators models from Sketchfab in Twinmotion. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I'm going to give the floor to Martin. And today we're going to show you how these new features works. And if you can, stay until the end because we will share news about our next Twinmotion Community Challenge.
Thank you, Tianxiao. So now let's actually head over directly to Twinmotion for a live presentation of the tool. So today's presentation is assuming that you are not familiar with Twinmotion, so we'll get started with the basics. So first off, how to get Twinmotion. For that, you can just jump onto twinmotion.com. From there, you can download a free trial that contains all the features of Twinmotion. The only limitation is on the resolution of the media you can export. You are limited in 2K. Once you have signed in and grab your trial version to test it, this will, let me present you start with the user interface. When you first launch Twinmotion, you have 3 different panels inside the user interface. First off, on the left, we have the library, which is native of Twinmotion. By default, Twinmotion ships with around 3,000 items and material that are installed locally on your machine and that are available just with a simple drag and drop. So for example, here if I enter the vegetation and landscape folder, trees, here I can drag and drop that Indian sandalwood. So here, as you can see, we can get closer to the tree. We have some wind in the foliage because we have a full weather system. And I will cover that in a second. But before that, let's actually add more vegetation. So to do that, I can, like I did here, I can keep adding tree one by one like that. But we also have what we call the multi-drop tool. If I select one tree by simply clicking on it in the library, and if I hold Control, I can actually select multiple trees. So here on purpose, I'm selecting trees that have really a different shape. Once that's done, now those trees are actually under my mouse. And at each time I will click, Twinmotion will randomly select one of them and it will add it to my project. So it's a quicker way to add vegetation in a random manner. Also, even though the same tree are added multiple times, at each time the tree will take a random rotation, a random scale, and a slight color variation just to break up the repetition. So you can add vegetation a bit quicker like that, but we even have a faster way to do that. For that, I'm going to the Context, Vegetation Paint tool. Here we have a drop box where I can drop the tree I want to add to my project. So let's add our Indian sandalwood and maybe that Austrian pine. Now that they are in, I will click on my brush, raise maybe the diameter to around 30 meters, and now I can start to paint my tree directly around my project. So it's even faster, as you can see here. So this actually creates a layer, an area filled with the item that is present in my Dropbox. And I can keep customizing that area. So for example, here, if I think that there is too much Austrian pine, I can select the Austrian pine, lower the density of that tree. I can add a new tree in that layer, for example here that Norwest spruce. Take a bit of time to load it, and once my spruce has been loaded, I can also customize it. So I can lower the density, and in the settings, for example, I can raise the age of that specific tree. So now that's done, let's come closer to our project. I mentioned that we have a weather system. You can find that in the settings, weather. Here we have 2 main sliders. The first one controls the weather. So if I start to drag this slider, and if you look at the sky, we'll start to have some clouds that start to appear. At some point, it will also start to rain, which affects automatically all the material inside our project. The second slider here is controlling the season. So we start in the summer, going through autumn, and until winter. And now if I come back to my first slider, since we are in winter, it won't actually rain, it will snow. I can even raise in the settings the smog. So here in just a couple of minutes, I created, like, switched from summer or a really sunny summer day to a really, a really cold day in the middle of the winter. So as I said, Twinmotion ships with already thousands of assets that are installed natively on your machine. But the thing is, the installation folder, the installation size of Twinmotion is 16 gigabytes. It's already pretty heavy, and we don't want to raise the installation size by adding more and more assets directly in the installer. So that's why, like Tianxiao said, last week we added a link to the Sketchfab library, which had now 660,000 new assets directly available within that Twinmotion library. Those assets are available on the cloud and are available on demand. So for example, here, if I enter the architecture folder, you can see that in some of those assets, in the top right corner of the thumbnail, you will have that download icon. So you can choose which asset you want to download before adding it to your project. When you find an asset that you like, let's scroll down. As you can see here, there are thousands and thousands of assets. Let's see, for example, what we could add inside our projects. So maybe actually here on the inside, it would be great to add maybe a sofa. So here I could keep scrolling, and since there is thousands of assets, it might be faster to use the search bar. So here I'm just going to type sofa. Actually, I've already downloaded one, but let's have a look at some other. So here we can download that one, for example. So here we have the progress bar that is starting to fill. And here we have all the information regarding that specific asset. So for example, that modern sofa was created by 3Dimension Alban. And here you have also the credit line when you want to use that asset inside your project. If you want also to learn more, you can click on the Open in Sketchfab. That will open that exact asset directly within the Sketchfab website. So back inside Twinmotion, my asset has been downloaded. I can now simply drag and drop that asset inside my scene. As you can see here, we have that plus icon. It's actually because that asset, we downloaded the raw data, and the first time you are dragging that asset inside your scene, Twinmotion is actually creating and converting that object into a Twinmotion object. So here I just added that sofa, and now I'm using the scale tool just to make it a bit bigger. Let's actually come back to the Twinmotion native library and have a look maybe at the characters. Posed human, here if I type sitting, I can maybe have someone sitting on that sofa, like here, rotating her, placing her on the sofa. As you can see here, the sofa is a bit too big now, so just scaling it a bit down again. So Twinmotion ships with also hundreds of characters. So if I'm coming out of the posed human and enter the animated human, here there is some animated characters. If I drag and drop, for example, Amir, it's a smart object, what we call them. In the dock, at the bottom of the screen, we have option for that specific character. So for example, here I can change the color of his clothing. I can also change the pose. Right now he's in idle state, but maybe he's sitting, maybe he's lying, maybe he's even dancing. And once I chose a pose, there is a list of animation for each pose. So maybe he's doing that dance, or maybe he's doing that more calm one. So when you have a large project, you can drag and drop a character like that, one at a time. It can be time consuming. So in Twinmotion, we also have some groups. So for example, here, I can drag and drop that group of 3 characters. And actually, at each time I will drag and drop that group, it will randomize the characters that are called, just to break up the repetition. So you can quickly create an area filled with people. But now let's actually have a look at how to have them animated and actually walk. For that, inside Twinmotion, there is what we call the path tool. If I click on here, we have 4 different types of paths: character, vehicle, bicycle, and the custom path that allow you to animate pretty much anything. So we enter the character path. Here we have a pen, and here I will use that pen just to basically create a spline. Once I release my tool, character start to walk on that path. It's that easy to create animation with Twinmotion. So now let's do the same thing but with a vehicle path. So here I will enter the vehicle path, select my pen, I will just click on the middle of the road. That path could be endless, it could be a turning at the end. Here I'm just doing that a bit quickly for the sake of the demo. So here, once I release my tool, same idea, car start to drive on the path. I will just click on the 2-lane option, so now I have some car driving in both directions. So it's pretty easy to create animation like that with Twinmotion. But now let's keep adding more objects. So I'm coming back on the interior. Here we have our nice character sitting on the nice couch. Let's actually check some more objects to fill that space. So I'll come back to Sketchfab. Here, actually, you can favorite item also by pressing the Earth icon when you mouse over an object. So for example, here, if I type lamp, I know that if I scroll down, there is a lamp that I quite like. Let's have a look if I can find it again. I don't remember the exact name, so I'm just going to scroll until I found the one I wanted to use. For example, here we have one there. Maybe the design a bit too old for this specific project. That one could be great. I'm going to download that one. And while it's downloading, I'm just going to keep scrolling to see what else can we find. So here we have actually a street lamp. That one could be great for the street. So I'm going to download that. And actually that one, the file size is a bit smaller, so it's downloading faster. So let's come back outside. That lamp, it's been downloaded, same idea. I'm going to drop that lamp onto my project. That lamp seems to be a bit bigger, a bit too big. So same idea here. I'm just going to select my gizmo, my scale tool, and just going to, don't need that. I'm just going to scale it down to fit a bit more my project. Something like that. So now that's done, I can customize a bit that lamp, and what I could do actually is link that to an actual light from Twinmotion. So I will drag and drop a light from the Twinmotion library, making sure it's aligned with my light post. I'm going to move that light up in the air and placing it roughly where we should have that light. What I'm going to do now is actually change the time of day, because in Twinmotion here you can make some sun study and visualize your project at different time of day. So here, if I click on the eye, I can change the hour of the day. So we can have a nice sunset, or I can even switch to the night. In the night here we have our street light that is creating that light, so that's great. But what I want is that street light to emit light only when it's nighttime. And for that, I think it's in the more of the intensity slider, we have that dusk to dawn option. Basically here, when you press, when you turn on that option, if I come back during the day, that light won't be present anymore. That light is turning on only when the sun is low and when it's basically night. So here I just created my first street light. Let me come back to the day. What I could do here is basically place my spotlight as a child of the street lamp coming from Sketchfab. What I will do now is just actually duplicate that street light. So here I'm taking a bit of altitude, so I better see what I'm doing. I'm going to press Shift and going to simply duplicate my street light a couple of times. Same idea on the other side. I'm going to select all my street lights and duplicating on the other side of my house. So that's it for the exterior. We can come back now on the time of day, play with the time of day, and we can see that all our lights start to light up. So that looks pretty cool for now. Let's now come back inside and add the lamp that we just downloaded. Coming back inside, I will come back to my Sketchfab folder and type again lamp. So where it is now, I need to scroll down again. Actually, is it with my, if I press the heart icon, yeah, it's a faster way to, I just favorited some of the objects I downloaded so I can retrieve them a bit easier when browsing through that huge library. So here I just downloaded that new lamp, placing that one inside our project, and I'm going to move it behind the sofa, maybe over here. So Twinmotion comes also with thousands of materials. So for example, here, that's the basic material that came with that lamp, but I can customize them. So first off, I can select my material picker. I can pick the material of that lamp. And for example, here I can raise the reflection of it. What I could do is actually completely replace that material by a material from the Twinmotion native library. So I will come to my materials folder, metal, and here let's maybe drag and drop that brushed aluminum. I would prefer it to be darker, so I will click on the color, and here I will just make it darker, like that. So same idea here, I could spend some time to place down an actual light, make it turn on when the sun comes down, but you already get the idea. Maybe just on that side we could have some chrome. So in Twinmotion, as we said, it's a real-time visualization tool. So since the beginning here I'm navigating inside my scene in real time. But also at any moment we can turn on the path tracer. The path tracer is that icon in the toolbar. When you turn that option on, it switches from raster mode to the path tracing mode, which will give you a way more accurate representation of the lighting. Here we really have the ray bouncing from the different light sources that are calculated, and it's not in real time anymore, but you can still turn inside your project, you can still navigate it, and you have a feedback pretty quickly. Also, right now I am in the medium quality. I can switch to low to have a preview even faster. So here, for example, I can start navigating inside my viewport. As you can see, it gets pretty noisy, but as soon as I start moving, it starts to refine, and we have also an AI denoiser that will just smooth completely your image. So now that's done, I'm missing just maybe a coffee table in the middle of our interior. So I'm going to come back to the Sketchfab library, and I'm going to actually type coffee table. So actually here we have a full set that will work great for our living room. So I'm going to download that set of objects. Yeah, you can see the size, so it's a bit heavy. It will take a couple of seconds to load. So while that object is downloading, what I can do is actually place down a camera, so we can work on the settings of that camera. So for that, I will come to the media dock, and really at the bottom left corner of the Twinmotion user interface, you basically have the flow of Twinmotion. You start with the import. For example, that house here, I've imported it as an SKP file coming from Sketchup. The context, like the terrain, the surrounding, was created in 3ds Max. I imported that as an FBX. So you can gather many files coming from many different sources inside the same Twinmotion scene. So I'm going to come back on my living room, and actually our sofa, chair and table has just been downloaded, so I'm going to drag and drop that inside the middle of our scene. So it's a bit heavy, so sometimes it takes a moment to load, and now that's done, I can select my set, I can turn it, and that one is a bit too big, so I'm going to just scale it a bit down, something like that. So I don't need the previous one anymore, but I quite like that material of that previous one. Well, I don't need that one. What I will do is maybe change the color of that sofa later on if I prefer to have a white or a gray one. But for now, that's fine, and we have that nice coffee table. So as I said, I wanted now to create an image, a media. Coming back on the media dock, image, I will click on the plus here to create a new image, which is that one, image 7, which is, you have that rectangle around it that showcases which image is selected. So right away, I can turn in the path tracer by clicking on that icon, first to have a nicer preview. But now I can also enter the more and do a few changes. So for example, if in that specific image, I want to change the time of day, I can come to location. And here we can have the sun coming from the right side of the screen, which will add a bit more light, especially on the roof. We can also precisely geolocalize your project, as you can see with that map at the bottom left corner of the user interface, allowing you to make a proper sun study and check if your building or the building surrounding your project will have, how it will be affected by the shadows that they create. So now that's done, that we can go in very depth into all the settings. We can activate the depth of field, we can change the focal length for the camera. So we have really plenty of settings to customize your image inside Twinmotion. But this live stream today is just to give you a quick overview, a quick back to the basic with Twinmotion. So here, basically, I have my first image. Now let's actually, maybe we can create an image outside. So let's quickly come back outside. I will create a new image. I will come outside, maybe toward our pool here. I will press on that icon, refresh icon, to memorize the new camera position. And I will do a few tricks. First, I don't need the group of characters on that specific image. So here, on the right corner of the screen, I just open what we call the scene graph, the scene organizer. It's where you have all the hierarchy of your file. So for example, here, those characters, I don't need them. So I can press the eye icon to hide them. And if I press refresh, now that image memorizes that these three groups are hidden. But if I come back to my first image, those three groups are well present. So on that image, what I would like to do is maybe use some deck chair coming from Sketchfab. So same idea here. I will just type deck chair. I already downloaded one, but same idea. I'm just going to drag and drop that chair onto my terrace. Scaling it a bit down. Something like that. So we have some really nice material on it. We have a white wood, a nice fabric. So that one looks really great on my terrace. And actually, that terrace might be a bit too dark. Like the wood I've chose might be a bit too dark for now. So let me come back to the Twinmotion materials library. Here I can enter the wood folder now. And instead of that dark wood here, we could try maybe that one. And what I could do is also change a bit the reflection, so it looks a bit nicer. So that's roughly it for my two shots. So now, if I want to export those images, what I can do is come to the export settings. Here I will need to choose the image I want to export, so I can select the two images we just created together, image 7, image number 8. And here I can right away click on the export button. Let's click on that. Let's click on export to my desktop. So it might take a few seconds, especially since one of them have the path tracer turned on. Yeah, like 20 seconds. In the meantime, I'm just going to switch to the Twinmotion website to prepare something I want to show you just after. So actually, the image has already been created. So let me come to my desktop. Just making sure, yeah, you can see my desktop. Here at the top left, we have the two images that has just been created. I can open that first one. That image is in full HD by default, but you can render up to 64K resolution with Twinmotion, so that's pretty huge. And here is the second image. So that's how you create an image with Twinmotion. In the second project, we are going to showcase also how to create a video. But while we are in this project, what I want to show you is how to create a project and share it on the cloud. So to share a project on the cloud, there is actually two ways to share a project on the cloud. You can share a panorama set. A panorama set is actually a collection of panorama. So for example, here I've created two different basically hotspots, two different locations, and from that location here, a 360 image will be generated from the interior of that living room, and the second one will be from that exterior scene. If I want to export that to the cloud, I will come to the export dock. I will disable the image that are here, and here in the cloud early access, I can choose to export my panorama set. If you want to have a look at what it looks like on the cloud, you can go to the twinmotion.com. There is a page dedicated to Twinmotion Cloud. And from there is a few examples showing you what you can expect from Twinmotion using that panorama set on the cloud. Just giving seconds to load. And yeah, that's it. We have our presentation on the cloud. Here we have some hotspot and we can switch from one to the other. So that's basically it for panorama set. You can also export what we call a presentation. A presentation is actually a real-time experience of your project. So basically, it will open your project in full screen mode like that in a browser, allowing you or your client or your coworker to navigate in the project in real time. Just require a good internet connection. So that's it for the first part of that presentation covering the basics of Twinmotion and the user interface. For the second part, I actually want to create a brand new project with you. And for that, actually, I'm going to use some assets directly from the Sketchfab library that you have inside Twinmotion. But one of the limitations that we have with assets that are natively inside that Sketchfab folder inside Twinmotion is that those assets are collapsed as one object. And what I want in some cases is to keep the hierarchy that is set up by the artist on Sketchfab. So for that, what I'm going to do is actually come to the Sketchfab website. Here I prepare a few models I would like to use inside that live stream. And for example, here I have a cool gas station that I would like to use. So I just bought that asset. And Twinmotion allows you to import GLTF file. So here, let me actually download that asset as a GLTF. I'm going to my folder. I'm just going to unzip that here. And now let's actually import that in our scene. So I'm going to the import. I'm going to check the download, and I'm going to import that gas station. Trying to be quick so we still have some time for the Q&A at the end. So here we have our gas station. Next thing I would like to do, I'm going to duplicate the floor, the ground of the gas station. I'm just going to scale it just so it covers like a really large area beneath the gas station. The next thing I could do is just maybe place a road. To do that, the simple, fastest way I can find is to simply use a basic box. So I'm placing a basic box in front of that. I'm going to lower the scale to 0.01, for example, and I'm going just to make it really long and a bit narrow. Now that's done, I'm clicking the material picker just to change the color of it, making it dark gray. So now what I don't want is actually that city sky, that city background, because I want to create some kind of cartoony scene. So for that, I will come to the location, background, I'm going to remove that. And now I want to import some desert rocks, and I know I put some in my collection. So here I really like those rocks, also coming from Sketchfab here. So I'm going to download this asset from Aeroreaton. So I'm going to download that, same ID, downloading them as a GLTF. I'm going to unzip that really quickly on my other screen. And now that's done, let's come back to the import doc. Clicking on import, I'm going to import not the guide station, the sound and rock as a GLTF. Here I'm trying to be quick, but there are many options, and what the most important one for me is the keep hierarchy option. Because by default, when you first install Twinmotion, it's set on collapse by material. That means that every mesh that shares the same material will be collapsed as one object. We do that because we want to optimize and get the best frame rate. But in my case, since I want all the rocks to be separated, I will select the keep hierarchy and click on import. So now that's done, they are a bit small, so I'm going to select, actually, let's close the folder from the gas station. Here I will actually just use the search bar to select all my rocks. Here we even have a filter if I just want, for example, all the objects. So here I've selected all my box and all my rocks, and I'm just using the scale tool just to make them a bit bigger. Something like that. Removing my filter, removing my search. I'm just going also to place them in a single folder just to retrieve them a bit easier. So I have all my rocks. Now I can start to place them exactly where I want. So I can just have some. So now it's just a matter of positioning exactly asset where I want. And actually, before that, it might be better to place down a camera. So let's place down a camera. I will come to the media, and like I said, this time I want to show you an animation. So I will come to the video. I will click on the plus to create a new video. Here I will actually change a few things. First, I'm going to change the focal of the camera, 50. I'm going to enable the path tracer, so it looks already way better with the path tracer. And what I would like to do on that video is actually do like a time lapse with the sun. Maybe we'll start in the night and the sun will go up in the sky. So what I will do here is actually create a second keyframe. So for example, here the first image I created, the first keyframe will be the starting point of the video. So if I move the camera and if I click on the plus, Twinmotion creates a second keyframe, and if I come back to the first one and click on play, Twinmotion automatically creates the animation between the two keyframes. So now, let's say I want to change the time of day in the first keyframe. So I will come on my first keyframe, come to the location, and here I'm just going to change the time of day on that first image. And now if I click and play back the animation, as you can see, we have that nice sun raising effect. So now that's done, and now that we know roughly where we have our camera, we can place down our rocks a bit more easier to block the background of our scene. So I'm going to place one over here to block that area. I'm going to place that one same over here. Coming back to the camera, just making sure we don't see hole in at a distance, like we have on the right. So I'm going to make that one here. We could have one a bit closer. I will also duplicate that one because maybe in the foreground that will be cool to have. And actually, I think I'm right in the middle of that rocks. Yeah, I'm right in that rock. So just moving the camera a bit away. I'm just going to take that part. Move it something like that. Yeah, so we have some rocks just below the camera. So that had a bit of detail. Okay, so we start to have an animation that looks great. Same idea here. During the night scene, what I would like to have is maybe some lights. So same thing here. I'm going to place down a spotlight where we should have a light over here. Going to turn on the shadow. So yeah, it looks already good. I'm going to just make quickly a light bulb using a simple sphere from Twinmotion library. I'm going to make that light bulb actually glow. I'm going to just scale that and place it in the middle of the lamp. something like that. Start to look great. Now let's actually, what I would like to do in that scene is actually have maybe a car that is animated. So for that, let me come, what could I do? Let me come back to the Sketchfab website. Here I remember that I had a taxi that I also bought, but there are actually plenty of one we could use for free. So let's check what we can find directly within Twinmotion. So Sketchfab, car and vehicles. Actually, yeah, there is plenty of one, as you can see over here. So I already downloaded a couple of one in some previous projects, just quitting the media mode while we are still building out the scene. So here we have a nice evacuator that I can place that will work well on next to that gas station. And what could we use? We could use that Canyonero. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So same idea, what I would like to do here is place that item. I will place it on a custom path to animate it. But first, what I would like to do is actually customize a bit that car. For that, I'm going to place down some lights. Switching to the night so we better see the looks that we'll end up with at the end. So yeah, placing down the lights. Oops. Duplicating that light on the other side. Those two lights I'm going to turn on the shadow. I can change the attenuation so it's casting lights a bit farther. I can change the color of the lights. It's an old car so we can stay something pretty yellowish. So 200 lumen will be fine. We could add some more also on the back, but I'm going to drag and drop those two lights as a child of the car. What I could also do is just also hide quickly also a light bulb. So for that same idea, placing a sphere, making that sphere, not X-ray, making that sphere glow. And now I will just make that sphere way smaller, scale it on white side to just make the sphere almost flat. And here we have our front light for our car. Same idea, placing those two things as a child of the car. So now if I'm moving the car, everything is following. So now that's done, I will right click on that Canyonero and I will add it to my user library. User library is where you can, not here, here we have the user library, it's where you can save basically your own object to reuse them in a future project. So we don't need that one in the viewport anymore, so I'm just going to move it on the side. And what I will do now is come to the context. I will click on the path, custom path, I will click on my pen. I will basically create, same as before, I will create a simple spline. And by default, we have that box that is animated. Actually, that first point might be a bit too far, so I'm just making it a bit closer. So I have that box that is animated, that just follow the path. But what I want on the path is actually the Canyonero we just created. And I simply drag and drop that car inside the Dropbox. And now we have that car that is animated. So now if I come back to my video, here we now can play the video and the car here will be animated. Right now I am in Path Tracer, and in Path Tracer objects are not animated, but when I will render that video, if we look like that, we'll have that video that will be driving from right to left. So to finish up that scene, I might still add a few more items. So let me come back out of the Path Tracer, back to Sketchfab, and here, motorcycle. I found a cool motorcycle the other day. Yeah, that one is really nice. So I'm going to add that one. Maybe that one is currently, someone is wanting to refuel that one. Coming out of the Path Tracer just to check the material of the motorcycle. So right now we have some basic material. When the Sketchfab asset you grab and you find inside Twinmotion, it's not a one-to-one compared to what you have on Sketchfab, because we don't support all the materials coming from Sketchfab. So sometimes you might end up in having a few differences. So for example, here on that motorbike, if I want to just tweak the material, it's something I can also do directly inside Twinmotion. And in my case, what I wanted to do is just to add some chrome onto some element of the car, like that part, and also maybe that part. So here we have the fuel tank that is already reflective, that looks already nice. We have some nice chrome on that side. So that's a really cool model. And once, when you use model coming from Sketchfab directly in the Twinmotion library, if you want to know the author, to credit, you can also open that panel here, the statistic panel. You click on it and you switch to the metadata. And here, basically, when you select that motorbike, here I can see that the author is Anima Niarti. But same idea, if I come back to my Sketchfab folder, cars and vehicles, here if I also select the motorcycle from here, I can open the asset in Sketchfab. And from there, if I click on the download button, I can copy the credit line. So basically, the Sketchfab library, I'm sure you are already familiar since most of people watching the stream is from the Sketchfab community. But if there are some people that are from the Twinmotion community attending that live stream, the Sketchfab library is created by the community. So when you are using some of those items, you will need to credit the creator of those items. So that's the easier way to copy the credit line, will be simply to come back to the Sketchfab website. And we are also planning to work on a quicker and faster way to retrieve that credit line directly within Twinmotion. So that's pretty much it for that scene. I can keep adding more objects, but you get the idea. So now let's come back onto our image, onto our video. Actually, here I can render that video. I can render it in raster mode, like that. Obviously, when you render in raster mode in real time, it's way faster to calculate the whole video. But I can also render it in a path tracer, which will give you, again, a way better representation of the lighting. Let's just enable it again, and that's the look at what we'll have at the end. So it will look pretty cool. And I think we are reaching the end of that presentation. I hope you like it, and I'm going to switch to the rest of the team so we can now chit-chat. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching that quick demo.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Martin. That was very cool. Like I'm very new to Twinmotion, so it was amazing to see all the things you can do it. And I think I'll have a play around myself with some of my 3D scans, pulling them in. We have a few questions from the live chat, so I'll just go through them.
Yep.
Starting with the first ones we received. So Matt asks about downloading an asset. Sometimes I've experienced that the progress bar gets stuck and I can't download assets. Typically I have to restart Twinmotion. So this is probably a good moment to talk about the fact that this is a preview release currently.
Yes, exactly. Like you said, that's really that feature was introduced in preview 2 just like last week, Tensia, right? It just got released.
Exactly, yeah.
And yeah, it's still in preview. That feature is still being worked on. We are aware of that issue, and indeed, right now, the only workaround is to basically close Twinmotion and relaunch it. But yeah, it's something that we plan to work on in the future.
Nice. So things will be updated and fixed for the release later this year. Is that correct?
I know the team is working on. I don't know when the fix will be, but yeah.
Cool.
Hoping.
All right. Thank you. So then Mika asks, so basically Twinmotion is not just for architecture visualization, but you'll be able to use it for anything. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what people do use Twinmotion for,
yes,
aside from ArchViz.
Yes, exactly. So indeed, originally, Twinmotion was created for the architecture industry. But especially since we have added the path tracer last year, more and more people start to use Twinmotion outside of architecture because we can produce some really high-end image quality. Let me actually switch back to my screen just to show some example of what you can achieve in terms of quality with Twinmotion. For example, yesterday we had a live stream on the automotive industry, and we walked through how we created that project, showcasing how you can render that really cool Volkswagen ID4. That piece here is coming from Sketchfab. The chess, the marble here is coming from the Megascan library. That other scene here is the All-Wheel Museum. So you can really visualize many different kind of projects. Just trying to find where I have stuff that is outside of architecture. Like here we have some headsets. So we can really have some really nice details. So if I can zoom in, you can really see the fabric, you can see the metal part, the plastic part. So yeah, we can have now Twinmotion being used way outside of the original scope of the tool.
Great.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that recently we started a new social interview series named Meet Someone Creative. So if you go to Twinmotion YouTube channel, you have this playlist. Actually, we already have 3 interviews with different creators. The first one is a scenic designer who's using Twinmotion to pre-visualize theater plays. And another one is a concept designer who is doing concept art using Twinmotion. And we have a third one doing aviations, all stuff non-architecture. So it's really becoming a general real-time visualization.
Okay, very cool, very cool. And I imagine that lots of people using Sketchfab to publish their 3D artworks or science visualization and everything in between will be interested to see kind of how they can produce videos and renders as well. So that's cool. Next question is from Vanik, and they ask, will Twinmotion ever support fully animated assets made in 3D software? That's a bit vague, but maybe does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. We know the question comes in every live stream. It's on our roadmap. We just don't have any date to release that feature yet, but we are aware and it's on our roadmap. And by the way, Twinmotion, we have a public roadmap. You can just type Twinmotion public roadmap on Google, and if I switch back to my screen again, there is the list of features that are under consideration. There is the list of features that are in progress. And yeah, you can have a look at what we are planning, what has already been released. In case you are fairly new to Twinmotion, you can see some of that's all the features we released in the last 2 years, probably. But yeah, that gives you an idea of what we have in mind. And the animated FBX, it's not only FBX, but animated file import is planned. And actually, it's great that we have that question, because I forget to mention that in the stream, is that right now we don't support animation coming from Sketchfab. That means that, yeah, when you import objects that are animated, you might end up having some weird issue, like in having a character in T-pose, for example. So yeah, just something to remember.
Okay, cool, thanks. Tycho asks, is there or are there volumetrics on the car's lights? I don't know if you could see that on the stream. So
not in Path Tracer at the moment. In the Path Tracer, volumetric effects are not supported. Basically, Twinmotion is built on top of Unreal Engine, which is the engine that powers up the graphics. And Unreal Engine right now doesn't support that, but I know that it's planned to support it in the future, so at some point we'll have that inside Twinmotion. But if you are not planning to use the Path Tracer in raster mode, so in the real-time view, you can have some lights with the particles, with some volumetric fog, so that actually work already today, but just not in the Path Tracer.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Okay, I think we'll have one more question, and then I think it'll be about time to wrap things up. Another one from Mika asks, are renders the only output, or are you thinking of other ways to offer outputs? So I suppose that's, we've looked at videos and images today.
Yes, so right now, today you can export images, video, panorama. You can also export a standalone experience, which is what we call the presentation. It exports a .exe file of your project. It's something that you can send to anyone. It doesn't require Twinmotion to run. You double-click on the exe. It launches the project in full screen mode without all the editing tools and the user interface you have in Twinmotion. The thing is that require also the same specs as Twinmotion to run. It's still pretty big. You basically export a game out of Twinmotion. What you can also export is on the cloud. So on the cloud, you can export either the panorama set, where you switch from one hotspot to the other, or you can also export that presentation. Same idea, it exports a standalone experience of your project. So that's the media you export out of Twinmotion. What you can also do, what was shown on the slide when Chen Xiao were talking, is that you can open your scene also in Unreal Engine. So you can start your project inside Twinmotion because you have that library that is really quickly accessible. You have those tools to quickly change the weather, the time of day, and whatnot. But after that, if you want to go further, you can open that Twinmotion scene in Unreal and keep refining, keep reworking your project. And finally, we are also looking at exporting a scene, a Twinmotion scene, as a GLTF file. So we don't have any date for now, but it's something we're currently working on, and that will be available on the future. So you could start a project inside Twinmotion and send it directly to Sketchfab.
All right, a nice circular workflow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for all that info. So before we finish this stream, I think Jiangxiao, you have one more thing to share with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So after all what we are showing you today, I'd like to announce that we are launching our next Twinmotion Community Challenge next Monday. So it would be the 9th Twinmotion Community Challenge, and the topic would be Sketchfab in motion. So it's really relevant to what we are showing you today. The idea is to create a creative video in at least 10 seconds in Twinmotion using at least one 3D model from Sketchfab. So maybe Martin, you can show the examples that we already created. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I have them.
You have it.
Give me a second so I can find the video.
Yeah. So keep an eye on our social channels. We're going to announce the challenge, the rules, and how you submit next Monday. And it's a great chance to put your hands on Twinmotion and try it. Everyone can participate, either you have a trial version, education, or commercial license. So yeah, get your hands on it and try it out.
And that's the video we are going to use to, that's the first
examples
that's the example using Sketchfab assets.
Okay, nice. And what we'll do is all of the things that we've mentioned in this stream, we're going to get the description updated for the video, and there'll be links to everything that we've mentioned in the stream. So
cool.
I can't tell if you're still playing a video,
yes,
Martin, or
I'm still playing a video. Yeah, it just about 10 seconds. Basically showing two projects, and one of the second project we are showcasing is actually the project I was working on during the live stream with that gas station. And this is just the end product, the end render I ended up having for the announcement of the challenge.
Awesome. I'm now with the delay, I can see some of these the video coming through, and that looks awesome. Very much my kind of sci-fi stuff. All right then. I think so. That's just almost an hour now. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. I've learned a lot about Twinmotion that I haven't had the time to look into it, so I'm gonna take this away and give it a go myself. And just want to say thank you very much, Jiangxiao and Martin, for taking time to join us and tell us about what you've been getting up to over at Twinmotion.
Thank you for inviting us. It's really fun.
Yeah, it was really great to be here today with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad, and we'll do it again sometime, I'm sure. So thanks again, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next month for another live stream on the Sketchfab YouTube channel. And check out all the links in the description, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.